He was the one man who brought down an empire by tearing down a single wall. Hello, my name is Austin Martin, and tonight I will be speaking with you about the life of President Ronald Reagan. Considered by many to be one of the greatest presidents of the 20th century, Reagan was indeed the great communicator. I will begin with his early life through college, then move on to his film and acting career, and finally, I will discuss his political career, starting with his tenure as governor of California through his presidency. Ronald Reagan was born on February 6, 1911, in Tampico, Illinois. Through his early life, his family moved every 2 years or so until they finally settled in Dixon, Illinois in the late 1920s. While in Dixon, Reagan became active in sports as well as acting, and especially took a liking to swimming. Reagan worked or was employed as a lifeguard at the local Dixon pool in 1927. During his first year of employment, Reagan helped save 77 swimmers from drowning. Upon graduation from high school, Reagan attended Eureka College studying economics and sociology. During his time at Eureka, he was active in sports still, as well as acting, and student government. And in his senior year, was elected president of the student body. Upon graduation from Eureka College, Reagan auditioned for his first acting job in 1932 and was hired by the University of Illinois to be a radio broadcaster for the Hawkeyes. He worked his way up his radio career until he was an announcer for the WHO radio station in Chicago and was the sports announcer for the Chicago Cubs. While traveling with the Chicago Cubs, Reagan secretly auditioned for a film acting career with Warner Brothers and was awarded a 7-year contract to produce films with them. This jump-started Reagan's acting career, and in 1941 he was elected president of the Screen Actors Guild. During his tenure as president of the Screen Actors Guild, he was the leader of the Hollywood anti-communist Red Scare movement, helping the FBI hunt communist spies that had so-called infiltrated the Hollywood scene. He also testified before the infamous House Un-American Activities Committee, headed up by Senator Joseph McCarthy. In 1967, Ronald Reagan left his acting career to pursue a career in politics and was elected governor of California. During his governorship, he froze government hiring and increased state taxes in California to help shore up the budget deficit left by the former governor. Despite signing the Therapeutic Abortion Act in 1967, only 4 months after taking office, he remained a pro-life believer and later regretted signing this into law. In 1975, Reagan left the office of governor of California in order to pursue the presidency of the United States. In 1976, Ronald Reagan lost the GOP nomination, but won it in 1980 for that election and defeated Jimmy Carter, winning the presidency. Upon inauguration on January 20th, 1981, Ronald Reagan became the oldest president to ever serve in the office. Immediately after becoming president, Ronald Reagan implemented his economic plan, colloquially called Reaganomics. The main part of Reaganomics was to lower federal income taxes in order to put more money in the pockets of the consumers and grow the economy. During this, however, he was also a supporter of increasing defense spending in order to try and defeat the Soviets by just stockpiling defense. Throughout his presidency, his anti-communism was one of the distinctive characters of him. He was the first president to ever meet with any Soviet leader, and at the time met with Mikhail Gorbachev, and he also made his infamous speech at the Berlin Wall, telling Mr. Gorbachev to tear down his wall. At the end of his presidency, the Berlin Wall did fall just like he asked, and that resulted in the ending of the Soviet Union. After leaving the office of president, Ronald Reagan was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, which continued to plague him throughout the 90s and into the 2000s. In the early 2000s, Ronald Reagan's Alzheimer's became more severe and thus hindered his health further. On June 5, 2004, Ronald Reagan died of pneumonia brought on by his Alzheimer's disease. He left behind his wife, Nancy Reagan, as well as 4 children, 2 from his first marriage and Patty and Ron from his second marriage. He is interred at Arlington National Cemetery. Ronald Reagan was considered one of the greatest presidents of the 20th century by some. Throughout his life, he was an anti-communist, as well as a great leader. I strive to be like him in his ideals and his leadership qualities in my everyday life.